sweetie? Well, it's restarting. Just give it a second.
Hey.
Hey.
Let me turn that down. Okay. Say something real quick.
You might be on the wrong mic.
Yep, of course I am. Why wouldn't I be? How's that?
Yep. Much better.
The consistent inconsistency of this is
Well, at least
Gotta
it's
be a-
consistent.
Yep.
All right, here we go. We're live.
Yep.
That's irritating.
Hello, everyone. Wet, fresh, new disaster awaits us today. Thanks, Curtis.
Right.
Appreciate your optimism there.
One thing I kind of enjoyed was a bunch of people read, the parts of that Panos Panay thing I quoted from, and they were like, "What does this say?"
Yeah, dude.
Exactly.
When I was reading all that, I'm like, this sounds like graduate school.
Yeah,
like it just
exactly.
sounds.
It's like, hey, we need to fill this out with lots of words.
There were about 6,000 too many.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
anyways.
Oh well. See if I can fix it. Maybe better.
All right. Where did? Oh, that's brilliant. What?
It's just Jeff Woolsey responded to one of my tweets about real networks with like a Ferris Bueller clip, which is actually perfect. It's just that Ferris Bueller doing that, like, ew.
I mean, if someone gave me $700-ish million, I could stretch that out for a while.
Yep. 7.1. You'd never see me again.
Oh yeah, I could be bought off real easy,
I would
especially
send you
right now.
Pictures of my place in Paris.
Well, good luck getting there. I mean, but
Well,
eventually,
with that kind of money, I think I could get through.
yeah, close enough. Apple is they're doing a great job for building an antitrust case against them. I mean, they're just
Kind of filling out the forms themselves.
like
Hey, here's the email you might want to look at. It's the one where we told our executives to pinpoint certain companies.
yeah. And then if other people like Microsoft want to put stuff in there, Facebook or other companies that have billions of dollars in free cash flow, just stiff them too.
Apple's the gift that keeps on giving. Just when I think I can't come up with a premium editorial, they just land it for me,
Yeah. So anyway, for those catching up, Microsoft said, "Hey, they pulled their xCloud streaming beta app." And then Apple said the reason why they're not doing that is because they're not letting that is because they can't review every single game, or Microsoft's not submitting every game. Microsoft came back and said it's kind of foolish that you have to review every single game. You don't really, there's rating services that already do this for you. You don't do
literally everywhere in the world. Yep.
Yeah. You don't really review every single piece of Netflix content, and we don't think you should have to review all of these games.
Yep. And Apple said, or something to that. I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah, I was going to say, was that? Yeah, it was close enough. But
It was close.
realistically, if you have an iPhone and you want to play xCloud, you're not going to be playing for a while. You're just going to be sitting there. I don't know, doing whatever that's not involved with xCloud.
Yeah, it's irritating.
So, the other big news of the last 24 hours is that a individual or whatever, not to be named later, How they say that in baseball, or a trade to be named later, whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever. There was
a draft pick to be named later.
Yeah, a draft pick. There we go. That's my sports analogy for the day. You can tell how well this season's going for me. Shared or let us view an email that Microsoft sent out. It's a massive reorg. Now, Paul, if you remember, like late June, I was like, "Hey, there's like something coming," and this honestly took a lot longer to materialize than I thought. Like I thought this was happening like early July.
It seemed like the type of thing they would have announced right at the beginning of the fiscal year.
But the major news here is that. Some of it's a little befuddling.
I would say 90% of it is a little befuddling, but
because parts of Azure are moving to Windows now. That's like Mike Fortin is moving over there. Yep. The other thing that really stood out to me is that effectively Kevin Gallo, who is leading Project Reunion, is moving to Windows. But it raises the question of like, why wasn't he in Windows anyways? Like that's.
Yeah. Yep. So I didn't write this. So the article you wrote covered both the Azure and the Windows client part of it.
Yep.
I just wanted to handle the Windows client part of it. It was, and Jason Zander's original memo was a lot shorter and more terser than Panos Panay's, obviously. But here's how I'll put this. I actually think that this reorganization, aside from the details, but from a high level, brings back Windows as an organization to where it was pre-Steven Sinofsky, right? And what I mean by that is that at that time, and so we have to go back to Windows Vista, there was a server group, which we can sort of think of as Azure today. There was a client group, and then there was a core development group that obviously was contributing code to both sides of the equation. Where that core development group was determines on who was, running different parts of Windows. So back in Jim Alchin's day, Windows Vista and before, that was controlled by server. When Sinofsky took over, he brought all that stuff in-house and made it all client. In fact, he made server bow to client in such a way that there was at least one version of Windows Server that actually shipped with tiles. Like it was just the stupidest. Yeah. Anyway, so Sinofsky out, Meyerson in. It went back to the way it was right at the end of the Alchin era, which means server Azure now, Jason Zander controlling the core development of Windows, the foundational bits, and Azure, which is a Windows, when you think about it.
Yep.
And not in the client. Tied to this, though, the way that the thing that to me is the biggest deal here is the developer part of it, right? Which you just mentioned. So development has often been associated with the server side of the house for some reason, like the software development bits.
Yeah.
That changed under Sinofsky. But really, you need a part of it in client for client development.
Yeah.
And so, actually, what I said up front might not be entirely correct, but this to me kind of rights the ship. I think that obviously the very low level stuff should be in that Azure group. That makes sense. But there should be a part of it that is reporting directly to client because the needs of client are so different from the needs of Azure. And then the development needs are completely different. So like this has been the complaint for the past, think about how build has gone for the past couple of years or the past 3, whatever years. You go there, you're like, oh, what are we going to hear about Windows? Nothing. And then all you hear is like all this Azure stuff. But this past year where they announced Reunion and they talked about some other, there was actually a bunch of Windows client news for the first time. And I think that was for the first time in years. I think that was the preview of what just happened formally. That there is an effort, and I told you, and we discussed this, 2 months ago maybe, that a friend of mine, a source of mine, told me to expect some exciting stuff on the client side the next year.
Yeah.
I think this is all tied to the same thing.
It's all starting to kind of mold together.
So it's look, if all we had to go on was these memos, we'd be lost at sea. But we have some context, and I think that helps put it in perspective.
Yeah, it does. And this is a pretty significant shift. I believe this dissolves the cosign group because it looks like that cosign group is most of it is coming over to Windows. And then there's like now a new Azure core team that is going to be doing probably what the remnants of cosign was doing.
Yeah, Mike Fortin is probably the biggest name making a shift, I would say, between the two groups. Am I right about that? I think so. he's a low level guy. He's like a colonel guy.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting. So, who knows? Look, someone asked me today about Windows 10 on ARM. Who do you blame? Why isn't it good enough? Blah blah blah. Whatever. There's all kinds of fingers you could point in different directions, but that's an area where Windows would benefit from some kernel work on the client side, and you got to think this hasn't been a huge prerogative or a huge emphasis, for the Azure guys. Why would it be?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see how this shakes out. We are live on Twitters and YouTubes and the Facebooks of the world, but these changes are going live the minute the email went out, which means that the stuff had been planned for a while, and then they were letting everyone else know. So,
yeah, I have it right. Like I said, if you go back to build and you think about how different that was from the past couple of builds from a client perspective, because remember, the reaction was wow, there's actually a lot of news for us, for people who care about the client. I think that indicates how long this has been going on. Panos taking over Windows end devices, Panos bringing in someone for the Insider program, this stuff happening, Mike Fortin coming over. I mean, this is all, to me, part of the same continuum.
Speaking of continuum,
I knew you were going to do. As soon as that came out of my mouth, I knew that was going to be the same.
You're going to like this segue. So this one's a stretch. I'll even throw that one out there. So Continuum was a part of mobile.
Say something about Samsung. Can I guess?
No. It's even better than that. So Continuum was a part of Windows Phone. Windows Phone was a mobile device. There's a new mobile device coming from Microsoft called the Surface Duo, and Ignite is now being split into 2 events. So you could call it Ignite Duo. Take a round of applause, folks.
So for the people who aren't watching this on video, allow me to provide the following audio cue for what I just did.
To bring everyone else up who doesn't know the intricacies of what Microsoft is doing in the Ignite world, Microsoft announced that Ignite, which is usually a week-long IT Pro focused show in the armpit of Orlando, but I think it was going to be in Louisiana, wasn't it?
Yeah, New Orleans. I was really looking for that.
Anyways, it was going to be a week-long event there. It's obviously been canceled because of everything going on in the world, and they're splitting it up into 2 events. So it's only going to be 2 48-hour chunks. One is happening in September when you would expect. The other one's happening early 2021, but Microsoft was very clear to say that this is not replacing Build.
Which was smart because that would have been the immediate speculation.
Yep.
By the way, did you see my theory about this?
No.
Because a lot of people are why would they split this into 2 events? I mean, did they not have enough to announce in September? Are things changing so they need something early in the year? I think it's literally tied to what they did for Build. So Build was technically a 3-day event. Is that right? And it was live, right? And so you know enough guys from Microsoft, guys and gals from Microsoft to know that those guys kicked the shit out of themselves to get that thing off the ground. It was a lot of work. And I think when they were looking at Ignite, they were like, guys, we can't do a week-long live event. There's no way.
Yeah.
So splitting it into two, it looks like 3 days events, right? 22 to 24 to me says 3 days, but let's call them 2 days.
It's probably 2.5. I bet there's probably something late too. Yeah,
I think they were basically logistically speaking, this is all we can ask of our employees. This is a huge event. It's going to be live. They're going to do it like they did the last one. Let's split this thing in half. We'll do half. And by the way, there will be products where maybe they'll be further along by whenever they do it, and they can have 2 separate sets of announcements. I think that makes tons of sense.
Yeah, and also the other thing you got to consider too is when you're at Ignite, when we go, there's only new stuff the first 2 days. The other days are either sometimes just repeat of sessions.
That's for sure.
Right? It's
by the
not.
way, depending on your focus, it's only 1 day really. I mean, the way they've split it different ways, but. For me, I feel like there's one big explosive day and a couple things the second day, and then that's the end of the week, really, other than us racing cars and being stupid in hotel bars. It's a good solid 4 days, really, when you think about it.
When you factor in recovery time, it stretches out a little bit. But those are known as the good times down in whatever. I was looking for, we were, VMont last in Nolans, where we had some fried gator bites or whatever they were at that.
Oh, God. Those oysters in New Orleans.
Oh, I forgot about all the. I have never seen one human eat so many clam or shell related entrees.
Go in and get a dozen, and then I'd be like, I have to get a dozen more.
Paul was
eating. How long are we going to be here? I'm like, okay, I'll have.
You were eating a dozen oysters faster than I could drink a glass of scotch.
Yeah.
It was It was incredible.
Awesome. It's an awesome city.
Yeah. So we're not going there. Ignite Duo.
No, we're not. No, we're not.
I don't know. It is Friday after all. It's
I'm hoping. So I shellfish, by the way. That's not entirely true. We have we make, I guess we call them baked clams here, but we have, we often get like oysters on the half shell or clams on the half shell, and like I've not had that literally this entire pandemic. So there is a small possibility if it doesn't rain, we'll go out tonight and go to a place that has that. So it'll be the first. What is it? It's March to August is what, 5 months? I mean, it's been a long time.
Well, while Paul is eating half oysters on a half shell, Microsoft's trying to buy the whole shell, apparently, of TikTok. I am just on it.
Transition on fire. You're like
Yeah.
a SpaceX rocket of transition here.
I went to the School of PowerPoint this morning and learned how to move between slides. Yeah. I think it makes more sense. The big question to me, there's two, is like, one, are they actually going to be able to close this? And how many dollar dues is this going to cost Microsoft?
This could potentially be $30 or more billion.
They were saying the original number that was floated out was like $30 billion for just like the U.S. and whatever conglomerate operations they lumped in there. But like the whole thing, their last funding round was something like $50 billion.
I'm just trying to imagine this conversation. It's like, look, we'd really like to buy the U.S. assets of TikTok, and we're willing to spend $30 billion of it. And they're like, Satya, the problem is you're going to piss off half the world. If you do that, you'll be colluding with the U.S. government to steal this company away from this Chinese company. I don't know if it's a good idea. And he's like, you're right. Let's buy all of it.
let's double down.
Okay.
That's a fact. This is going to be. This is, we're going to wrap this up in a nice little Real Networks bundle here. Like, this is like just going to be a lump of cash tossed at an asset, and they're going to be like, yeah.
Unbelievable. Microsoft, the TikTok company. That's going to be their new slogan.
God,
Speed? Wasn't that guy from Speed the bad guy? Wasn't he like TikTok? What do you do? Wasn't that his thing?
Well, I keep thinking there's a joke in there somewhere that they actually think they're buying part of Intel CPU business, but it's actually just.
We just want the talk part. Can we do that? Is that a thing?
But if you do, it'd be a great logo for that. Is you just take the number 7 off the clock, and then.
Yes, it's like the Steven joke. I can't call everyone I know. My phone doesn't have any 7s.
Anyways, you got anything else going on this weekend besides potential half of an oyster?
Yeah. Well, just working on Ask Paul. I almost said half Paul. I've pretty much been a half Paul all week, thanks to my lightning and flooding disasters. It's been kind of a back-to-back calamity thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think when that's done, I'm going to go upstairs, curl up into a ball, and sleep until Monday. Well, until half shell time, whenever that is.
So you can crawl out of bed for that thing. Well, I don't know what anybody else is doing this weekend. We have a big virtual conference happening next week on Petri.
Yes, right. That's right. On Wednesday, right? All day.
Yeah.
Is it Wednesday? It's Wednesday.
It's Wednesday. It's the 12th, all day. You can go to petri.com and learn more about that. There's going to be a giant red banner. If you miss it, please don't let us know, because I don't know how you did it. But yeah, that's what I'm going to be working on probably a lot this weekend, actually. I got to get all that stuff cleaned up.
Yeah.
And so there we go.
I'm sorry.
Well, no, you're not.
A little bit.
Oh, man.
So I got my Sonos Sub,
Wow.
the replacement.
Oh, the replacement.
Plugged it all in. It works as a speaker. I can't get it connected to the TV. So it's possible that I'm reusing my cable, the HDMI CEC cable, whatever it's called. So maybe that's blown, but maybe that part of my TV is blown.
Wait, you got the sub or you got the beam?
I'm sorry, the beam.
I was like, wait a minute.
I got the replacement beam.
Yeah.
Which, God bless Sonos for being such a small company. They just sent me a new one. But I can't get it to connect to the TV, and I'm going to have to. It's one of those things. Like, I just wanted it to work, and it couldn't work, and it wouldn't connect, and it's giving me error messages, and CEC is enabled on the TV, and I'm like, couldn't figure it out. So I'll spend time on that this weekend too, I guess, because my time's not valuable.
I would agree with that statement. Later.
Bye.